YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Nicholas Montez. Welcome back to another YouTube channel video, everybody. I'm so excited to have it back here together again. And in today's video, we're going to be stopping to rank all 11 James Wan movies, because we got a new James Wan movie coming out this weekend, Malignant. And with that said, let's get started. But before we get started, we gotta talk. I'm gonna go through some movies that I haven't seen, and it's only gonna be 3. But the list is basically gonna start at number 8, I believe. Yeah, it's gonna start at number 8. And so when I get until number 9, I'll say that it's time to start the ranking, and then it'll be starting the ranking. So let's get started with the movies that I haven't seen. Alright, now let's start the ranking. Okay, so for me, this is easily one of the worst movies I probably have ever seen, just because I do not like this movie. Because the way the movie is executed, with the characters, the story, the concept, it's just so weirdly executed. And I don't really think any of the skaters really served it for me. So this is just kind of an awful movie, and I never really cared for it at all. Now, as the newest James Wan movie, I do think that this movie is good, but there are some problems with it. So on the plus side, the horror stuff and some of the action stuff, and the girl actually confronting the demon inside of her, is pretty great, and something I never thought we would actually see in a James Wan film like this. But I just feel like that this movie never really thought of what you could care about with the characters. I feel like you never really cared for the characters in movies like this, especially directed by James Wan. And I just feel like that the movie's characters should have been better in this way the story was kind of executed. And I felt like you could have done something a little bit more original than just telling a format like this again. So overall, it doesn't really feel that original, and it just feels like you're just taking inspiration. You're just redoing those horror films you did back with Conjuring and Insidious. So I still thought the movie was good, but not fantastic. Now, The Conjuring 2, I actually think is actually a pretty good sequel to the original film, where they actually introduce some new characters, and they actually have characters that you actually care about, with the girl that is conflicted with the little girl that actually has a demon inside of her, and that scene with her mom that she's telling her the truth about that day with the cigarette and her friend making her seem look cool. I thought it was an interesting scene. It does kind of get overplayed a little bit, but I kind of enjoy it, as it's kind of ruining it, as it kind of reveals the truth and stuff like that. The horror stuff, of course, works. It kind of does expand this kind of world a little bit, and I thought it did what it was trying to do, and it told another story of The Conjuring, and I enjoyed it. Now, The Conjuring obviously is known to be one of the most classic horror films, because it's known for just doing these classic horror stories. And I thought the introduction of this whole trilogy, of this whole universe, was just fantastic. I thought that the way it kind of introduced the mythology, along with Annabelle and all of this stuff, was just very interesting to me. So I thought the horror stuff also worked, and the relationship between the families and all this stuff. I just thought it worked better in this film than the original, than the second film. So I thought, as an original story from James Wan, I think that this was a good movie. Well, it kind of has some problems in the mix as well. Now, Insidious is probably the film that... This is where the list kind of gets a little bit better for me, because this is the horror movie for James Wan that I actually really like. I mean, obviously, there's one that's actually my favorite of this list, but Insidious is a film that I think does better than most horror films on this list, where they actually take characters you care about, the girl from Instant Family as well as X-Men First Class, and they take her character as the relationship between Patrick Wilson and the girl from X-Men First Class, where they have this relationship as they're kind of, what can you say? They're like, they have different sort of values. The dad just doesn't know whether to believe the mom or not. The mom just wants her to believe her so much, and like she does not want to be in this house anymore, and it's like it's conflicting, and it's like you care about the situations that are in, and then it just explores this whole different type of story, and it expands like this scenario of Insidious astral forms and stuff like that, and the horror stuff is intense, and it's like, oh my gosh, did he do that? And then at the end, like when Patrick Wilson kills the mom of the movie, I'm like, this just got intense, and I'm like, I want to see the sequel to this movie. So it was a good movie, but I do have some issues with it. I don't really know, I can't remember what those are, because I haven't seen the movie since I left for Disney, but that is a good movie for me. Before I give my final 3, be sure to tell me down below, what is your ranking of all 11 James Wan movies? Did you guys, like, what is your favorite film? And if you haven't seen many of them, just tell me at least one film that you've seen, and just tell me what you think about that film. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. With that said, let's get started talking about the last 3 films on this list. Okay, so Furious 7, when I heard that James Wan was directing, when I heard James Wan directed Furious 7, I was like, I mean, when I heard about it first, I was like, okay, I'm fine with it. But then I realized that he made The Conjuring, he made Insidious, and he was masterful at that. But making a dumb, fun action movie, that's not really in his bag, and I didn't really think that it would work. Like, if I was a big fan of movies back then, in 2015 or something, I don't think I probably would have been skeptical for it. But now that I've watched Furious 7, and I've watched it multiple times, the movie works. What I loved about the film was, of course, the action sequences, especially that fight in the beginning with Hobbs and Shaw, even though Hobbs isn't even in the movie all that much. And then he comes back in the end to take out some drones, shoot a helicopter and all that stuff. And once again, the car chase sequences are crazier than ever. The new characters in here with Ramsey, Shaw, the official version of Shaw, because we only saw him in the end credit scene of Fast and Furious 6. It does kind of expand the relationship between Dom and Letty a little bit more, and I thought it was explored very well. It is, of course, very funny and goes back to the stuff that you like about the Fast and Furious franchise, where it has great-looking cars, great-looking women, and all of that stuff. And then, of course, the best thing about the movie was that it paid a memorial to Paul Walker, as he died in the making of this movie. I totally respect him, and I love you, Paul Walker. You played great as Brian O'Connor, or Brian Toretto. So rest in peace. We will see you again in heaven. Say hi to Chadwick Boseman and Stan Lee for me. Now let's move on to my number 2 spot. Now, Aquaman is another one of those films that I was like, is like, I knew James Wan directed it. I knew James Wan directed this film. And I'm like, now that I'm looking at the films that he's made, I'm like, why would he direct a film about with this superhero comic booky fantasy world? But then he actually does it, and he does it in a very cool way, where he takes characters that you like being around. He also just does fantastic action, and they make it long. It also has some time to take characters and have them kind of have some little character arcs. The villain in the movie just reminds me of the Mandarin, where he has this sort of thing in the movie, and I just never really thought the story for that villain was complete. I'm excited to see Aquaman 2. I don't know what the movie's going to be about, but I want to see it so bad, and to see Aquaman as the king of Atlantis, and to see what it's kind of like. But overall, I just think the movie is a little bit weird at times. Some of the humor, I guess you could say, is kind of cheesy. It does a little bit too much, but overall, I think it's a good movie, and I did enjoy it a good bit. So that's my number 2. Now let's move on to my number 1. Now, Saw was like a clever film, because they took this idea of what if people were chained inside of this dirty room, and they had to find some way to get out, and the only way they could do out is to cut their feet off. And honestly, I thought they took this plot line in a pretty clever way, where you get these two characters that you kind of care for. At the same time, they are still crazy people as you start to discover of what they were actually doing before they actually were ever chained up in this room. And it's like, it's threatening, and then when the guy cuts off his leg, it's like, ugh, this is so disgusting, and this is so bloody. And like, you feel the tension throughout it. And there are some thriller vibes with the movie as he tries to kill the guy and stuff. So overall, I thought it had some great character moments. It had good intrigue. It had good intriguing moments. And it just kind of worked at everything it was trying to go for. So for me, it is my favorite James Wan movie, and that's why it's number 1. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My Instagram is Marvel6. My TikTok name is RollinFan. If you guys don't understand those names, head to my badge section so you can follow me on all social medias. I'm also on Letterboxd. It's the same name as Instagram. _6_, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.